Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Dana, and I have a fantastic guest today that I have been dying to get on here, Paul Lavoie. Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm great, Dana. Thank you. How are you?
I am good. So before
Good.
we get started, why don't you take a minute and just tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and all that kind of good stuff.
Sure. So I am the Chief Manufacturing Officer for the state of Connecticut, appointed by Governor Ned Lamont in February of 2022, so cycling on a year on the job. And as the Chief Manufacturing Officer for the state of Connecticut, my job is to help support and grow manufacturing here in our great state. So there are lots of programs that we have around growing and developing our manufacturing, our community and our manufacturing sector, and it's my job to lead those efforts.
Fantastic. And we're going to talk about a very important topic today, which is CMMC. So our topic is going to be, why is it important for manufacturers to achieve CMMC? And I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to hearing your perspective, because I feel like there's this train coming down the tracks towards all these manufacturers. They may or may not be aware that this is happening, and we need to help spread the word. So that's one of the things I'm really excited to get out of this conversation.
Great.
All right. So here's our first question. So what is a chief manufacturing officer for the state of Connecticut?
So Connecticut is the only state with a chief manufacturing officer that works in the executive branch of government and works for the governor. So it is kind of a unique position in the country here, and it was created by the legislature. It was actually created by manufacturers. So manufacturers got together through what we call the Connecticut Manufacturing Collaborative and asked the legislature and governor for somebody to help lead the manufacturing sector. And so the collaborative got together, created what they thought the idea of the position would be. The legislature went ahead and approved the position, and then the governor also approved it, and then the governor has the ability to appoint the chief manufacturing officer. So I serve at the pleasure of the governor, but work very closely with the governor and legislators and really everybody within the manufacturing ecosystem to help support and grow manufacturing from our large manufacturers such as Sikorsky Electric Boat, Collins, Pratt & Whitney, Kaman Aerospace, the Lee Company, all the way down to very small manufacturers that we have here in the state as well. So I am their concierge, I am their advocate, I am the one that helps support them through some funding opportunities that we have through our Manufacturing Innovation Fund, of which CMMC is one of those areas that we are supporting through the fund, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But manufacturers in Connecticut should know that there is somebody in Connecticut that wakes up every morning worrying about them and making sure they have the tools they need to succeed.
Well, that is great, and I hope that this gets out in front of as many as we possibly can, so that they know that there's help on the way with CMMC. All right, so here's a question. Please tell me about the manufacturing ecosystem in Connecticut. We just went into that a little bit, but do you want to go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, I'd like to give you a little bit of just kind of a perspective about it and with a little bit of detail. So Connecticut is number one in the United States in aircraft engine and aircraft parts manufacturing. 25% of all aircraft engines are manufactured here in Connecticut. That's 25% in the country. In Connecticut, we say you can't fly without Connecticut. If it leaves the ground, if it's a missile, a rotary craft, jet propulsion, if you're leaving the ground, there is a Connecticut part within that vehicle leaving the ground. So a lot of what we do is around air safety, and certainly we do a lot in the defense sector, which CMMC becomes very important when we're talking about defense sector. We are number 2 in per capita spending from the Department of Defense. So here's little tiny Connecticut, and we only have one military base. So a lot of the per capita spending goes into military bases, but for us, it goes into the manufacturing sector. So there's 24 to $25 billion a year come from the Department of Defense into Connecticut manufacturing. And we're number 3 in the country in manufacturing density. There's 4,400 manufacturers in our state, in our 5,450 square miles. And the other interesting thing is there's 160,000 people that work in these 4,400 manufacturers. And when you consider that 60,000 people work in the top 25, you have 100,000 people working in a little over 4,375 manufacturers. So the manufacturing ecosystem is very small. Average manufacturer is about 23 people. So when you start to think of CMMC and other cybersecurity and protections, we're generally dealing with an ecosystem that's very small and doesn't really have a lot of infrastructure to be able to support it. So that's why it's important for the state of Connecticut to be able to help support our manufacturing ecosystem.
Absolutely. Wow, those were some really big numbers that you just rattled off. Who would have ever thought? You're right. Little Connecticut would have all this. So
You
thank
know,
you for sharing
we punch above our weight class.
that. All right. So here we go. Why is it important for manufacturers to obtain their CMMC?
Well, really, there's a couple of reasons. First and foremost, because of our defense infrastructure and our defense supply chain, it is absolutely a requirement of the Department of Defense that your CMMC that you have your CMMC. So that in and of itself makes it a driving force as well. But if you really think about what we do here in Connecticut, and we make submarines, we're the submarine capital of the world. So we're sending out our submariners, and we're bringing them home safely. The same thing with our Black Hawk helicopters out of Sikorsky, submarines at Electric Boat and helicopters, and protecting our military and bringing people home safely. And then, we do the F-135 engine, which goes into the F-35, which is the warfighter as well. So as you can imagine, because of Connecticut's very important position in the defense supply chain and what we do, there is a great risk that let's just say unsavory actors may be trying to get, to hack into our supply chain. And we know that they're not going to go in through the front door, but they may go in through the back door. And so it's important, and that's really in the supply chain. So it's very, very important that we have our supply chain as secure as our large OEMs. So making sure that you're cyber secure, making sure that you're certified, making sure that you have the proper security protocols in place are just critical to make sure that we can maintain our nation's dominance in defense, and we can make sure that our supply chain is protected as well.
Are you having a hard time finding new customers? A lot of folks just like you in the IT and cybersecurity space are in the same situation. And they have embraced a new opportunity to get new clients. They're doing this by growing their online presence and maximizing the power of LinkedIn. How, you ask? I have a tried and tested method called my Cyber Social program. I myself have been on LinkedIn and now have over 3.5 million LinkedIn views, and over on YouTube, I have over 750,000 video views. So I can show you exactly how I have done that so that you can promote your organization and become the authority in your industry. And the best part is, I've done all of this organically without one paid ad. You don't need to waste your money over on Google with pay-per-click ads. Now's the time to establish yourself. Look around. The competition isn't doing it. This is your time to shine online before they do. So if you're ready to start your online journey and future-proof your business, please, down below, click the link and schedule a time for us to have a 45-minute call where I can review the exact methodology of the Cyber Social program. You can also click below to see some of my masterclasses, which will give you quick little snippets of a couple of things you can do right away on LinkedIn that will help with your profile. I hope to see you and hear from you soon.
Wow, I didn't know that the Connecticut is the submarine capital of the world.
Yeah, we are
Wow.
we are the place where you build submarines. So all
Wow.
the submarines, and we're building 3 a year. So and it's a very important part. 50% of the Navy's budget is in submarines. So there's lots of defense work here in Connecticut.
Wow, that's very impressive. Okay. Well, so their next question is, what's the most important thing for manufacturers to understand when obtaining CMMC?
Yeah, the most important thing is for them to become educated, for them to understand what it is that entails in this certification. It's a rather lengthy process and expensive process, but we do have funding available that's through our Manufacturing Innovation Fund. We have actually 2 vehicles of funding for manufacturers to obtain their CMMC. The first is that we will fund a Smart Industry Ready Index and a cybersecurity assessment for any manufacturer that's under 300 employees. So that's up to $10,000 for somebody to come in and to be able to do a gap analysis and to let a manufacturer know this is where you're really strong and these are your areas for improvement. And then when they go to engage with a company to be able to do their CMMC, there's funding available of up to $100,000 in grant money for them, matching grant money for them to be able to fund their CMMC. So it's important for manufacturers to be educated on what's entailed, and then it's also important for them to understand what's available for them at the state level to be able to obtain this certification. So it's, spend the time to learn about it, spend the time to become educated about it, and then spend the time to really put together a plan that will make sense for you, but understanding that the state stands with you with up to $110,000 in funding for you to obtain your certification.
Okay, so this is very important. I just want to take a minute to make sure we're very clear on this. So where would they go to find out that information?
So there is a website called Money for Manufacturers, which is on the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technologies website. So if you Google Money for Manufacturers and then put in Connecticut, it'll take you right to that page. And there you'll be able to find all of our grant programs that are available, and our grant programs and support programs that are available for Connecticut manufacturers. So it's very easy to get to. Again, Money for Manufacturers in Connecticut, and then you Google that, and it'll take you right to the page on the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technologies website, where they manage all of these programs for my office, which is the Office of Manufacturing and the Manufacturing Innovation Fund, which provides the funding for these programs.
And then as far as that $10,000 for the assessment, so they can go in there and apply for that money. Then when they get that money, can they choose who they're going to use to do that assessment, or do they have to pick from approved people, or how does that work?
Yeah, they have to pick from approved vendors. So it goes through CONSTEP. So CONSTEP is Connecticut's Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and CONSTEP has the resources on staff to be able to do this assessment, and they're trained to be able to do this assessment. So you have to have it done by somebody who's actually trained to do these smart industry ready assessments and these cybersecurity assessments. So we would need to approve who you're having do it, so we make sure that it's being done properly and it's being done by someone who is certified to do the assessment.
Okay, so my next question, which I know people are going to ask me, is how does somebody become an approved vendor for that?
That would be to reach out to CONSTEP. So CONSTEP is CONNSTEP, all capital letters. They are the Manufacturing Extension Partnership. There's one in every state. There's actually 51 MEPs throughout the country, because there's one in Puerto Rico as well. But they are the arm that we use here in Connecticut to be able to do those assessments, and then the funding is available through the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology.
Okay, well, that is fantastic, because I know we need to get more people in this and getting certified. I mean, on the other side, the people that are going to help too, because when this starts really coming down and the train is very close to everybody, and you have to have CMMC certification, we have to have people that are going to be able to help. And obviously it starts with the assessment and getting that money. That's fantastic about that. So I'm glad we just talked about that. Yep,
absolutely.
That's great. Okay, so next one. So how do we get started in Connecticut? You just kind of started talking about this, but if you want to expound on it at all.
Yeah, I think to get started, reach out to CONSTEP. Let them know that you're interested in starting on your journey. They will connect you to the resources that you need. And again, they would recommend that you start with the assessment, and then certainly apply for the funding for the assessment on CCAT. CONSTEP will guide you through that process, but CONSTEP is your partner in Connecticut to make sure that you have a guidepost for you to help you along with this journey as well. So you certainly can go off and there's other organizations that'll do that as well, and there's some private organizations that'll do that. We're working with some of them to be partners within CONSTEP. But from a state of Connecticut perspective, we're pointing it to, we fund CONSTEP and we fund CCAT here out of the Department of Economic and Community Development. So we're certainly pointing people to those resources, because the consulting resources that they get from both of those organizations are at no cost to them, because they're funded by the state. So I would get started by going to CONSTEP first, and then you go to the CCAT Money for Manufacturers page second.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, another thing I want to tell everybody out there too is to make sure that they don't wait. I know that people say, well, we're going to kick the can down the road a little bit because CMMC hasn't been completely finalized or whatever. And I would encourage everybody to just try to get started as soon as you possibly can, because not only is it going to give you more time, it's not going to be as expensive, because you're going to be able to break it down into bite-sized chunks versus all of a sudden having to cram whoever is going to do it to get in there to help you get certified.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And especially in some of the smaller organizations where you just don't have the resources to take it on as a big project, and you're going to have to look at it in little chunks and little pieces of the project. And then again, start with that assessment, because the assessment gives you your gap analysis. There may be some things that you're doing very well already because you have a very good IT provider. and and they're really thinking about making sure that you're protected. And so when you do the gap analysis, it'll give you really a good idea of how long your journey is going to be or how big your journey is going to be. But that journey you should get started with an assessment. And I have lots of money, so I would love to see people really tap into that and make sure that they're starting on their journey sooner, much sooner than later. And you're right. I mean, this is one of those things that that when it comes, if you're not certified, an OEM may have to start making decisions to move work to a company that is certified, and you may be looking at some missed opportunities to be able to keep the business you have or even grow your company. So.
Yeah, and some of these, small manufacturers, like you were saying, a lot of them are made up of, 20, 25 employees, and maybe a large part of their income is generated from the DoD contracts. So that's the other thing too, is you want to make sure that if you're not certified and, somebody, a prime above you says, well, I'm sorry, we can't use you anymore. You don't want to get in that situation either. And we need these people to get certified. We do. We need the parts, the pieces, whatever it is that they're making. We need all that stuff. So we need to, again, back them up. So I'm glad to hear there's a lot of money out there. That's good.
Well, Dana, from our perspective, we want to make sure that work stays right here in Connecticut. Right? We don't, we want to make sure that our supply chain is as secure and as resilient, and that, quite frankly, we're hopeful that we get ahead of the curve and that other states don't, and that work moves from other states to Connecticut because we are certified and because we are leaders in cybersecurity and CMMC. So that's why we're putting so much effort and why we have the funding available for our manufacturers. It's just a great opportunity for us to grow our manufacturing base here in Connecticut.
Well, that's great. Let's shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we kind of touched on all this stuff. Is there any other advice you'd have for Connecticut manufacturers?
I think your advice is the best advice, and that is get started now. Don't wait, and really get started now. Look at all the resources that you have available to you. You're not going to be on this journey alone. Team Connecticut is going to wrap you up with our services and going to be able to guide you through the journey. And then, we'll get you certified as quickly as you can, and really put yourself in a nice position to continue to grow in the defense sector. And quite frankly, every manufacturer should do it. I mean, it's a requirement in the defense sector, but every manufacturer should do it because, as they say, I was talking to a cybersecurity expert who said that 75% of manufacturers said they have never been victim of a cybersecurity attack, to which he said that 75% of manufacturers didn't know that they were victims of a cybersecurity attack. So we're all have the potential to be victims, and taking proactive action is always your best defense.
Mm-hmm. And just one quick question: is that money that's available for the assessment only for contractors that are doing business with the DoD, or is that for any manufacturer?
It's available for any Connecticut manufacturer.
Okay. All right. So they don't have to be going for CMMC.
No.
They could just be saying, we got to get our Cybersecurity Act together, and they can apply.
Yeah, no, through the Manufacturing Innovation Fund, we cannot make those designations. It has to be all Connecticut manufacturers.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic then. That's great. Okay.
Under 300 employees. That's our only,
okay.
So they're under 300 employees, we'll provide the funding for. So.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Well, this was very, very helpful, and I hope it reaches a lot of people. So thank you so much for your time and sharing all that important information.
Well, thank you, Dana. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to help you, certainly in your mission to make sure that that people get their CMMC. But thank you for allowing us to amplify it and reach as many people as we possibly can. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate this. Spread the word. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.